People, do we see Raj's beautiful face? Have I made the... There we go. We've got the workaround. All right, everyone, welcome. We'll get started. 7:30. Welcome everyone to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I mean, look, I put the question marks here because as the velocity of set releases increases, we're becoming increasingly untethered from doing these things to any particular release. You could have called this the law and points announcement, and it would have felt a lot more MTG. But at the end of the day, this is today's points announcement, which coincides most closely with Teenage Mutant Turtles. I'm joined here with Raj. How you going, Raj?
Hey Ben, hey everyone, thanks for joining in. Thanks for taking the time out to listen to us ramble and mumble on about some points changes. Uh, pretty cool one. This one, I think it's some targeted changes that we felt were needed, and we'll get into the details as we go.
Yeah, I mean, look, by some targeted changes, we really mean only one targeted change, and those who were here early on saw it already. But yes, It wouldn't be a stream if I didn't somehow bugger up the order of the slideshow. At least this time, it's not like the next slide is sitting there all the time. This time only this one got away from me. But let's explain this Bolas Citadel plus 1-to-1 change. So in the first instance, this is obviously a storm pointing. Now, look, last time when we laid a bunch of points on storm, it was with the fast mana, the Tezzeret, the mana vault. It was Tinker back to 2, and what we were trying, and also kind of it wasn't lost on us as well that the pointings of things like Deadpool and Barragwave were affecting what was otherwise a very viable sideboard plan. But what that really was an attempt to do was to see how much could this deck be tuned down without really changing the architecture of the deck as a whole, right? And by what I mean of that is that there was a Yorgwill Lotus deck which ran Tinker and Citadel, but I mean from what we've seen, at least post that pointing, is that deck still feels very, very strong. I don't think we believe that this deck is literally the only S tier deck in the format or anything like that, but it doesn't really align to the goals of the format in that it's just very fast. It leads to a lot of really non-games, and it's really hard to sideboard against, particularly because the axis on which Citadel attacks is so far away from the axis on what Yorgwill attacks. You can be holding up the Surgical Extraction, Endurance, Rest in Peace hand, and if they drew the Tinker Citadel side of the deck, well then too bad. You could be holding up 3 Shatters, but if they draw the Lotus Yorgwill side of the deck, too bad. So that this is we are very aware this is making that 2 decks now. There will be a Tinker Citadel deck, and there will be some form of Lotus deck, and they will be different. Those are my preliminary thoughts. But what are you got anything to add to that one, Raj?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the head where we want to not let Storm have its cake and eat it too. They have to pick a lane, whether they want to go for Lotus and other pieces to combo off it, like you said, Yorkville, etc., or do they want to be a Tinker Citadel deck? So I think the Tinker Citadel line is still very powerful. It's just that they can't mash that package along with Lotus and have both angles, which is why we targeted Bolas Citadel as the storm pointing. I think that we briefly chatted about other cards as well, like Yorgwill was discussed. Briefly, Beseech the Mirror was discussed. But we felt Citadel is sort of the pinpoint pointing that Storm needs, just to sort of bring it back. Hopefully, we look forward to it being brought back into the level with other archetypes, with other top tier archetypes.
Yeah, all right.
Because we're not kidding. Storm's been doing really well. So.
Yeah. But look, in many ways, well done, Storm players. You did the thing for many a time. All of these cards, which used to be a point, I remember when Tendrils used to be a point, and Yorgo used to be a point, and Dark Petition used to be a point. Bit by bit, these points went away, thinking, oh yeah, nothing's happening, this is safe, da 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 da, and then out of nowhere, right? The deck is back together. It's suddenly dominating tournaments and things like that. So the mini game of the format of break the thing, make the committee act has been won. Hats off, crown to all of the Storm players, well done. But now, hopefully, we'll see. Someone might be able to do it again in just a pure Lotus deck with no Tinker Citadel, or maybe in a Tinker Citadel package with no Lotus. Well, I guess we'll have to see who comes out on top. All right.
Yeah, I trust the Storm Cabal to find a way.
Yeah. All right.
Just as life finds a way, so does the storm cabal. All right, moving on.
Yeah. So look, the next points change. This has been on people's minds for a long time. We've got Enlightened Tutor going to 0. So look, it's kind of just never really felt like the right time to do this. But you know, in this pointing is kind of supposed to be a bit of a comparatively small pointing. It seems like a good time to just add this in a controlled environment where we can see if it really does break anything. And so, look, mainly for that is that it's a tutor, so it has a certain inherent level of danger to it. But it is also one which hasn't been seeing play for a very long time. Yeah, Raj, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, well, look, it's what we do want to make clear is we understand that this is a one-man instant speed tutor, so we will be keeping a very close eye on it. Cards like cards that are essentially one-mana tutors will always have a very high ceiling in a format, and an Enlightened Tutor is a sort of card that fits into a variety of decks. It can go into Storm decks to find you your Black Lotus when you need it. It can slot right into 4-color like the Underworld Breach decks, the Fastborn Crucible Breach decks as well. Being able to find either half of the combo is really good, and it can, like people are discussing in chat, it goes in lands, finds pretty much all three parts of the combo that you need. It is an instant speed tutor, but it is a card disadvantage tutor, and it is relatively narrow when compared to stuff like Vampire Tutor or DT. So we envisage Enlightened Tutor being powering up a lot of archetypes that have been just under the brim or needed a bit of help. So stuff like Time Wall, stuff like Lands. Not that Lands has been doing poorly. Lands has been performing well as of late, I feel. But we believe that depointing such as this will help a wide variety of archetypes. And yeah, we're looking forward to see how people use Enlightened Tutor and prove to us that yeah, it is worth 1 point.
Yeah, I mean, look, I will say, because obviously I'm reading the chat and I'm seeing a few archetypes brought up. You know, like lands, you know, fair enough. But white in many ways is kind of almost like the least popular adjacent lands color. Like most lands players are either green black, or they're almost intensely mono green. So you know, in many ways, to the extent that this quote unquote buffs lands, it like buffs the least prominent fork of it. You've also got like the Amber Ascendancy deck, whose success, as far as I know, has not managed to escape the hands of specifically Henry. But you know, like at the end of the day, if a deck based around an enchantment which is blastable by all 4 blasts starts to increase and it's brand new, I mean, great, awesome. You know, like let another archetype enter the format. And Breach would be, you know, like, what do you got? Like, I mean, you know, from what I've been told, this is probably, but, you know, we've seen Breach players make cards like, you know, Gamble and stuff being good before. Probably not a good tool for Breach, just because it only gets like one part of either Breach or LED. And, you know, mostly you kind of want all of the parts at once. That's what makes Intuition so good there. And Time Vault, I mean, look, you know, like, Time Vault as a deck, it couldn't, for some reason it was struggling to find success when Tinker was 1, when Tez was 0, and when Mana Vault was 1. I think if we'll throw them a bone with ET, I think we're going to be okay there. But you know what? If it makes these decks more playable, then that's a good thing, because I don't think these decks would be considered right now to be major players, and that's you know, that's the format, that's the points list, you know, working as intended. However, said that, the mini game is open. Someone break this, make us look like fools, so we can all once again be like, oh, they did it, and yeah, we'll see. Yeah, it's like the thoughts see our stocks go way up. I think actually one other thing, probably worth talking about with this card, is that it wasn't like a slam dunk like the committee was like, all at once, yes, ET must go to 0. What we were really talking about was the comparison between this and other top deck tutors like Worldly Tutor and Personal Tutor, which it just didn't feel super great having them at different points, considering that since like we've got Nadu as like a combo piece and Metamorphosis Fanatic is like a backup plan for Worldly, it very much feels like Worldly is as good or better than Enlightened. And so the idea of putting Worldly to 1 was like a pretty serious consideration as well. Likewise with Personal, not as much, but it's quite good with Citadel and Tinker, and even once you're going off as Citadel, you can put whatever you want on top. But, you know, we kind of resolved that at the end of the day, like, you know, we'll have a look how this looks first. But look, we always reserve the right if in the future this card turns out to be totally busted. Who knows? Maybe they'll all go to 1 later, under the typical guise of tutors. But we'll see. We hopefully, as Vance just put in there, hopefully it will be powerful but fine. So yeah. All right, Raj, do you have anything to conclude on that one before we go to the next one?
No, I think Van summed it up. It's powerful, but we do believe it'll be fine. And just to give the committee a bit of community a bit of context, as part of the committee, we've been discussing this card for a very long time.
Yeah.
And even now that with the depointing, it wasn't an easy decision. We took a bit of convincing and looking at data and thinking about what the ramifications might be. But we feel like the format is in a point where it's where a shakeup like this is welcome, but I don't think it's going to break anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, looking forward to see how people use it. Really.
All right, and then the last one is going to be Uro. Well, not -1 to 0. Bugger. It's supposed to be -1 to 1. I buggered up the PowerPoint again.
Whoops.
Okay.
That's all good. That's all good.
This
That's
is a 1. This is a 1.
Yeah.
I need to snipping tool. Hang on, I can hot fix this. We're snipping tooling this 1.
Snipping tool just yep.
And we're putting it here.
Love it. Love the improvisation.
Oh no, it's not minimizing. That you know what the thing is, that even looks like a 0. it's actually just
it looks like a very, very cubical 0. Yes.
It's like I guess it goes 1 to -1. Who knows? It's like actually I don't know what I could do. I could grab the pen, black pen, 1.
There we go.
All right. This is, as you guys know, these are very high quality streams that we take very seriously.
Very seriously.
Eraser this. New. I'm just gonna grab this. And then I'm going to grab my pen, custom pen, which of course is white. 1.
Absolutely.
Okay, there we go. It's fixed. -1 to 1. All right, we can continue with the stream now.
That's a typo, just a small typo. It's
yep.
-1 to 1.
But it's I fixed it now.
There we go.
Okay. So look. The reasoning for this hasn't changed too much from the reasoning which was presented when we watch listed this a long time ago, which is basically that this card is nowhere near as free as it used to be, in the sense of there's just so many more cards now, which just for completely directionless reasons, like it's not like it's important to the deck, but they hate on the graveyard. So for example. Douthie Voidwalker, Emperor of Bones, nearly every black deck plays Cling to Dust. You've got Keen-Eye Curator. Endurance is in...
Every Saga deck runs Relics.
Yeah, or something like that, yeah. So it's just yet there. And look, sideboard options are better now, like Ghost Vacuum wasn't always a thing. The Discord, that's my Facebook pinging. I can get rid of that. All right, so anyway, look, the point is that once upon a time, you would need to be really thinking about including graveyard stuff into your deck, and that might actually worsen the quality of the deck against other things. But that's not really the case anymore. Like, don't worry, I've fixed the Facebook thing. That was just probably Wollongong popping off in the background, But anyway, so it's just like the idea that nowadays you've got a lot of good anti-graveyard stuff in your deck for free. And it's not worsening the quality of your deck. In fact, it's probably making it better. And so Uro is just going to cop a lot of strays. And because it's going to cop a lot of strays, it feels like not quite like a 2-mana card. You can't really build around your deck around a card, which is just, kind of incidentally going to be, kicked like that. And the second thing about it is that the format is also faster. Like when this card was 2, doing like a 3-mana explore was like very on rate, or felt more comparatively on rate. Whereas nowadays you really would be punished a bit more heavily for taking turn 3 off to do that. And also like, blue, green, like the deck, which is, I guess, the most likely to benefit out of this would be Nadu, or Walks. And they're, for the last couple of announcements, that probably wouldn't have been a great time to give those decks a bit of a hand, but nowadays they're not dominating in the case of Nadu, as many people feared it would, or in the case of Walks, as it has as much in the past. So yeah, of all of the times to do this, this is the most sensible time. We'll see how it goes. And I don't know. What do you think, Raj? Anything to add?
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, this was another decision that took a bit of talking about. Uro is a slow card. However, we do recognize that in a matchup like Jund, we Omnath. if people still playing Omnath. I believe there are people playing Omnath, but in matchups like that are slower, grindier, a card like Uro is just unbeatable. Like I remember playing against a band control player at Pat's Lotus event, and I was playing Junk, and a single Uro, like my Keen-Eyed Curator got Swords to Plowshares, I had no other Grave-Eyed hit, and the Uro just completely took over, and I couldn't deal with it. So in matchups like that are slower and grindier, we recognize Uro is a powerful card, but overall, looking at the format holistically, I don't think Uro is worth 2 points. And we would love to see decks that can utilize a card like Uro come back, throw them a bone, give them a 1 point discount, and let's see where the Omnath decks end up.
All right. Well, that is it, guys, in terms of our points changes. So, intentionally a small announcement. We actually really like where the format's at. We're seeing a lot of diversity in decks. We're seeing it feel very open, and hopefully this just opens one or two more doors here and there. But intentionally a small announcement. Look, Graham, don't I've got things. I've got the coming up. So, first of all, next points update will be 19th of June. Second thing, Crouch is the obligatory thanks for not hitting bots. It's don't worry, bots time will come, I'm sure. Again. Why has it gone away? What's happened? Okay, there we go. Next update, points update, 19th of June. Just trying to, obviously we're not Nostradamus in terms of when every event in the future is going to be, but we're just trying to make sure it's not like a week before a major event or anything. So you can expect a fair bit of format stability. Second thing, Melbourne POG series 7th of March, that's this Saturday. That special mention, there's a new player initiative. If you haven't played an open series event before, play for free while the store credit lasts. And the use it responsibly is just a call out to, if you're like an enfranchised player who hasn't played at a open series before, please don't use this. We're trying to use it to recruit people. So let's make sure that we are using our charity money, which has been given to us by the player base, I think, to actually invite new players. So, tell some of them, get them incentivized. Sydney, we've got the ANZ Super Series. There'll be a 7-point event on the 13th of March. That's Friday. Queensland, there's MTG Mate Zero Spend to Send, a free entry tournament. Melbourne, there's Highlander Worlds. We probably our next great big giant Highlander event, 24th, 26th of April. There'll be a single player and unified points teams event, so get hyped for that. And we don't know if there's going to be a thing for Eternal Masters like that. There probably will be. We don't know what the details are, but at some point in the weekend of the 6th to the 8th, no need to save the date. If you've got any events you want to spruik in the thing, let us know. Otherwise,
there is another event.
What's the other one?
It is in May. It is the RC that's happening in Adelaide on the 22nd to 24th of May. Sorry, Ben, when we were discussing this earlier, I completely forgot to mention it.
Oh yeah, no, that's why Raj is here.
So I'm hoping we get a lot of interstate travelers for the RC happening in Adelaide in May. I'm sure there'll be there's definitely going to be a 7-point side event. So that is another big event that's coming up in the next few months.
Yeah.
So quite a lot to look forward to, isn't there?
Yeah. But look, let's do some just general discussion about some pointing things, because people are asking questions, and I think there are some which probably deserve an explanation. One thing I want to talk about is the One Ring, because lots of people were talking about that in the lead up to the points announcement, and it definitely was discussed by the committee. And I want to kind of also introduce Fourth Eolingus into the conversation as well, because they have some overlap. These cards, we know these cards are really powerful, and we know they provide a lot of card advantage, but they are importantly not blue. And I know the One Ring can be run by blue decks, and it is run by some blue decks. But one of the things which really came up was we don't mind that we don't mind that decks like Jund and Naya, and essentially just like the non-blue core decks, have powerful card advantage engines. It's not like a play it and end the game card like it is in some combo decks. Like you can, there is interaction. Yeah, there is some interaction with things like Bowmasters and Narset. There is just like racing your opponent. It's not always going to win the game when it comes down. But until it really goes in a really, really large percent of decks, like at the moment, it's in about, like I think at CanCon it was about 25% of decks, but it's kind of important that a lot of those decks are not, how do I say this? There are some decks which for some reason, like Grixis, for example, don't run it. And as far as we can tell, if we're banding ideas about, it's because decks which already aggressively use their life total as a resource can't really use the One Ring very well. But decks which can't do that can. And that's a good thing. So we want to have those decks have a powerful card advantage engine, but we think that maybe at 2 the One Ring will kind of just be relegated to like just a combo piece, and that's not necessarily where we want to see the card. That might change in the future. You know, if it goes from 25% to 30, 35% of decks, we might revisit. But yeah, it's okay to have a powerful option at 1. And that's kind of the same for Theolingus. That one does make its way into blue control-y decks a bit more, but it's but it still is just a powerful aggressive card in red-white, like mid-rangey / aggressive decks. And it is important for those decks to have tools. So yeah, like that's just kind of some of the broad thoughts as to why we are where we are right now on that. But that's not to say it will never change. But yeah, we've seen, for example, with Uro bringing that from 2 to 1. Sometimes the 2-point things is where cards go to die, and we really want to avoid that if we can. And so like when the card is kind of marginal, from 1 to 2, maybe we are on the side of 1, and we have tried things like with Ragavan, right? Like we tried to bring it to 1, and that card was definitely too good at 1. So we don't think like the 1 ring and 4th are in the Ragavan category yet. But anyway, that's just like some background there. Some other questions. You do have anything to add, Raj? There's some other questions people ask.
No. If I, like the thing with One Ring is it's not as good in a singleton format as it is in a 4-of format.
Yeah, we
because you can't legend rule it away. So it is. I've seen a lot of players One Ring lock themselves or just die to their own One Ring, not able to find the right answers. There's a lot of card draw hate going around as well. So the One Ring is a very powerful card advantage engine. It's just not. It's being played in decks that need the help with card advantage, which is a good direction. But we do admit that, like you said, 25% at CanCon. It is seeing a lot of play in a lot of decks. So it is something we are keeping an eye on.
Yeah.
And fourth Theolingus is I think is a good card at 1. It's being used by Jeskai control decks, big mana decks, red-white aggro decks. So it's seeing a wide swath of play.
All right, some other.
We've got another question from Pants 12.
Yeah, I was gonna say quickly. I do not have a summarized point slide, but if you want to know the points again quickly, Citadel to 1, Enlightened Tutor to 0, Uro to 1, not 0. But it is losing a point. What was so I saw a question asked about Gamble. Look, I'll answer this very quickly. Gamble, when it was pointed, it was to knock Breach down a peg. It did that quite well. Like prior to Gamble being pointed, Breach really was kind of almost like a format bogeyman. And it has been a solid player, but not a format bogeyman since. Solid as in it's top tier. Like Breach is a really good deck. So we're hesitant to reverse the Gamble change. We understand that it means that the card's not seeing much play, but it might just be one of those things where it's justice for the format, not justice for the card. And that sucks that choice has to be made, but it accomplished the goal very, very well and very effectively. For us to think about maybe putting Gamble back to 0 again, it would take Breach to be in a point where it quote unquote like needs help, and it's definitely not there. So like I understand the feels bad around that. Right? That is not lost on me, but it is kind of doing what it was supposed to do still. So that kind of answers that question. There's another question about what are we concerned about most with ET going to 0? Raj, what are you most concerned about with ET going to 0?
It's probably going to be. The thing is, ET is applicable in a very wide variety of decks. I think the most play it will see is probably in the 4-color Breach decks, like the Breach Spawn decks that you were just talking about. That is something that I think players would try ET in. Time Vault is another deck. I understand that in the state, Time Vault hasn't been seeing a lot of play. But in Adelaide, we have 2 players, Shane Cunningham and Michael Hearn, who is Shane Cunningham, just joking. So Shane and Michael, they've been playing Time Vault since before the Lotus event, during the Lotus event, and after. Like they adapted to the points changes that happened to Tezzeret. And they've been putting up really good numbers. So I feel that is a deck that will come back, but obviously Interstate, we're not seeing a lot of Time Vault, so that is probably not something we're concerned about. That's something we're excited to see if people do start playing the Time Vault decks. Lands is a deck that ET will see playing. I think people will give Green White a shot, and we'll see how that goes. In terms of concern, it's probably just decks that can fetch up Breach or that can fetch up Lotus. I think those are the 2 we are most concerned about with ET going to 0.
I mean, personally, my biggest concern with ET being at 0, is the One Ring. Like that because it immediately recoups the card disadvantage. So personally, I would just be worried about any random white deck being like, oh, I'm just going to get the one ring as the default, plus I guess like any piece of like Urza Saga or whatever. So that would be my biggest concern, but we'll see. But Raj is right with the Breach Bond list now running like Oath of Druids. I mean, who knows? Maybe that will be the thing which tips it. Other questions answering is Yorgwill on the ban list or nah? So on the watch list or nah? So just in broad strokes, we are de-emphasizing the watch list as much as possible, just because it is like for whatever reason, like it's no in particular individual's fault, but it was starting to create some kind of like unhealthy expectations about almost like it being the waiting room for pointing. Conversations like this, like receiving questions and giving answers, which people can talk about and things. This is our preference to a watch list. So if you've got questions, if you've got like now's the time to do it. But rather than having a published watch list. But with Yorgwill, nominally we're looking at it, but it's more just we would have like the Storm deck has essentially been cleaved with this points announcement, right? Like the Storm deck which emerges out of this thing is going to be a completely different deck to the one which exists right now. So we would have to actually see that new Storm deck, be a thing before we got worried about looking at Yorgwill. And even then, that's kind of front running the conversation a bit because who knows what that Storm list will look like. It could be something else, which is the more concerning card. So like that. So kind of the key answer is kind of no, because we want to just, I mean, it's kind of yes, but kind of no. It's just we don't want to like say, this is what the problem card in the new Storm deck will look like when we don't even know what the new Storm deck will be. What else have we got in there? Raj, can you see any other questions we can answer? When is Juzza getting a point? Never. We're not pointing players.
If there's a player in Australia who needs a point, it is probably Juzza, but we can't do that. Mind Twist D point question mark.
We actually did talk about this.
We did talk about it. It's just Mind Twist is not the kind of card that leads to fun fight. I mean, it leads to fun for one person, but it's just not good emergent gameplay because it's just Mind Twist and then what? Right? I mean, even with the One Ring, the player buys themselves a turn and then either turns the corner and wins, or just gets pressured after that and dies to their One Ring. So it does go somewhere.
I would say just in general with Mind Twist, like my thought as to why one might be interested in implementing Mind Twist is just something along the lines of, well, it's a deck which it's like a card which rewards you having lots of spare mana, which means that maybe it's like a better in like a dorksy kind of list. And it is good to have cards which help mana dorks. So like that might be the strongest case for putting Mind Twist to 0. But it is just one of those like big game swingy cards where for very little work you can get a huge amount of card advantage. And we kind of wanted to go on the small change this time around. But look, the problem is as well is that black, as well in the format doesn't need help. Like black has a very, very, very powerful suite of free cards. And so, I think if we were trying to help black in the same way that we were trying to help green right now, then maybe Mind Twist would be one of those things talked about. But as long as black feels like one of the best colors to play, it's probably not going to be Mind Twist time. Another one asking about is the initiative. Okay, so the initiative again is one of those things where when it was in its heyday, the format was not really in a great spot. Like a lot of decks, a lot of archetypes felt very, very much unplayable because they were getting squeezed out by the fact that like you had to be on the board for combat. And that's kind of almost like when Ren and 6 was one, how like mana dork decks were kind of getting squeezed out as well. Mm-hmm. So we want to just
also fast mana was not as pointed as it is now.
Yeah. So we acknowledge that those cards like Undermountain, Caves of Chaos and stuff are not seeing as much play as they used to. However, the problem is for us is that a lot of them, the gap between 0 and 1 is very, very large. And the impact of putting, for example, let's just say we put Undermountain to 0. It means that every Nadu or every Jund deck or every Walks deck, like any deck which runs green, now has kind of like an entire game plan for free. And these decks do play things like Birthing Pod, like Neoform, like Green Sun Zenith, and it just means that like you've got an entire angle of attack which will put a lot of pressure on a particular archetype which maybe you might not be good against. For example, like a good example might be a lot of these 4-color decks are bad against Blue Moon, but Blue Moon's a control deck, and so having your Green Sun Zenith turn into gotcha, that's not desirable. Hang on. Pardon me. Really losing my voice here. it's empty. Oh my god.
Oh no.
It's in every way that mouse is failing. It's like I'm even failing to bring water.
Oh goodness. Well, if you want to take a break.
Okay, I'm just gonna fill up this water bottle. But Raj, you give your thoughts on the initiative because I have like one more other set of thoughts on it. But I'll leave.
Yeah, absolutely. Go get your water, Ben. I'll cover till you're back. So the thing with the initiative is, me personally, it is the worst mechanic they've ever made. Does it help proactive strategies that are good for the format? Potentially. I think the format's proactive enough as it is, where decks can fit initiative in, like deck lists can fit initiative as a core strategy, and if you're willing to spend points, I think that the reason why initiative went up points is because we wanted players to choose not be able to have fast mana alongside all the busted initiative creatures, which is why they've all been pointed. And I think the initiative creatures that are pointed are just good creatures on their own as well. Like Seasoned Dungeoneer gets the initiative in, fights for the initiative, gives you card advantage while exploring. Undermount Adventurer is Vigilance, so helps you fight for the initiative, makes more mana. Like in case of Chaos Adventurer gives you card advantage, and White Ribbon Adventurer is like, one of the most broken cards in Vintage at the moment. So I think the mechanic's in a fine spot. I think players just need to try it out.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'll acknowledge that the deck it's like markedly less powerful than it used to be. I mean, other thoughts, just like abstract thoughts about the initiative. One could be, for example, well, maybe you just take Mana Crypt from 5 to 4, but that that comes with the collateral of the Mana Crypt games are very they're not the kind of Magic which necessarily people want to play because it's just like such a huge high roll having it in your hand, as opposed to the games where you don't draw it. Other options might be, for example, like White Plume, taking that to 2, but that card is like really good. Like that's even just as Raj said, in its own right, it's really crazy. So it's, look, all we're saying with this one is that, yes, it's on our radar. Yes, we're talking about it. We haven't found the solution we think which is the right solution yet. And we'd rather just err on the side of caution there. I apologize to initiative players if you feel like your deck is a bit underpowered at the moment for that reason. It's not like, at least personally, we're not doing that. I'm not doing that on purpose, but it's just one of those things where I want to get the solution right, and I haven't got the right solution yet. But that just is what it is. So that's the most honest way I can portray it. But look, it's been talked about. It's not off the radar. Maybe sometime in the future, we'll see. All right, what else have we got in terms of other things?
Breach to 2, ? No.
Underworld Breach. That's more likely to go to 4 than to 2.
Yeah.
Breach to 4 will happen before Breach to 2 will happen.
Breach to 2, yeah. Absolutely.
Are there any decks in the format?
Yeah, there we go.
Are there any decks in the format which the committee thinks are slightly underpowered in the format? I mean, I don't know. I think Time Vault's slightly underpowered, but we gave them ET, so maybe that will change that. Is there anything you think's underpowered in the format, Raj?
It's a good question. I think sort of like green-white creature decks that aren't Nadu, so that aren't aiming to combo with Nadu, but rather just being mid-range decks.
Oh, like Naya.
Yeah, like Naya, maybe even red-white, which probably comes back to the initiative question. I think those decks are a little bit underpowered. But, it's... What else would you think is underpowered, Ben, apart from those?
Well, I don't know. I mean, look, at the end of the day, there's like a million brews which are underpowered, right? Like, Madness, the Aristocrats, like, there's tons of, like, Soul Sisters, has made its appearance out of the wilderness for the first time in like 2 decades or something, like there's plenty of underpowered, but it's not as we want as many decks to be viable as possible, but it is functionally impossible to make all decks equally competitive all points in time. It's more like, we'd be concerned if entire archetypes and things are underpowered as a whole, and I'd say in that sense, like, aggro, Although, the Taxus deck has been doing pretty good, and that runs like Dryad Militant. That's basically a Savannah Lion. So, we're feeling that we're kind of succeeding on that front for the first time in a while. And green, as well as a color, feels a little bit less represented than the other ones. And so we've been working on that. So we'll see how, maybe Uro will help them.
And green got Uro, yeah.
Yeah, so
let's see.
the next thought is how any thoughts on how Grixis is doing recently? I mean, it feels to me at least that all of the people have been saying, "Oh, you'll never stop Grixis." I mean, it's not stopped, but it feels like it's in a good place. Like I know it didn't top 8 CanCon, but it had the right amount of wins. It was just on breakers. It feels like at weeklies it's like showing up, and like I watch the Rad Nauseam things. It seems like it shows up and does reasonably well. Like Grixis to me just seems like now a really solid deck choice that's not necessarily better than all the other decks. So. I imagine that Grixis's performances now is going to be way more contingent on what the metagame is. So yeah, that one I think it's good. I think it's good. But we'll see. If it ends up. I mean, look, if there's a team who's going to suddenly make Grixis the top dog again, it's probably going to be the bus stop guys. So we'll see where they end up on it. I'm sure they can make me eat my words.
When you see the format becoming more and more proactive, like if you see 2 different versions of Storm after this update. If you start seeing Time Vault decks after this update, Toracle's back on top. Juzza won. I mean, Juzza can win with anything, but Juzza won with Toracle. There were other Toracle decks that did well. When the meta becomes more densely populated with those sorts of proactive decks, you're going to need Grixis to sort of police them.
I'll tell you one way to make Grixis huge again is to depoint the initiative, so that the only control deck which is viable is Grixis. All right, what else have we got? In terms of I assume it's a joke about depointing top, but depointing top is just like it's just a time thing. It's just it makes the games go for a long time. Like it is a powerful card. Like don't get me wrong, but it's probably like half a point in actual power. It's more like a tournament experience thing. LED to 1. Look, LED I don't think is a good card to point in that LED belongs in combo decks. Like it's not a powerful card in its own right. Like it needs to be paired with something else, and then when it's paired with something else, just point the something else part of the deck. That's why like Breach is 3 points, and Lotus is 5 points and stuff like that. Like I understand the problem that LED to 1 is trying to solve, but it's just better. Like at least it's the committee's position right now is it's better solvable in other ways. Imp Seal to 2. I mean, look, Imp Seal at 2. Maybe Imp Seal could be 1, but it is also just one of those things where the unconditional tutors, like they are more dangerous than the conditional ones, like a lot more dangerous. Well, what else have we got about fast bond going back to 1? I mean, look, honestly, you're going to need the fast bond decks to start performing as well as the top tier decks first. At the moment, it's just the odd, estranged lands player. Where, like, look, when the Lands Discord stops celebrating like it's notable when a Lands deck top 8 so weekly, then we can talk about Fastbomb going back to 1. But at the moment, it's just gone from literally being in both the literal and actual and the figurative wilderness to being a deck which can put up a respectable result every now and then that people have to kind of have in their radar. That's a fine place for a Fastbomb deck to be. I mean, and like. The Storm decks weren't even running it in the Citadel thing where Fastball like guarantees the Citadel. Like it's like I understand like the card's powerful, but I think people need to like what's the right way to put this? Like powerful combo cards, for example, like Show and Tell, and most recently like Natural Order. They don't have to necessarily be a point. You can even if they do something really crazy, like Entomb. I guess Entomb's not really a good analogy, but yeah, Show and Tell is like a good analogy. But yeah, anyway, like we're just waiting to see for the deck to be really good first. Discussion about blue mid-range points, Wong Chitong or Quantum Riddler. I mean, not really. We think these cards are fine and interesting, and they kind of play into the long game, which we like it when they play into the long game because...
like Wong Chitong's a great, like modern day Sphinx's Rev that gets turn scolding randomly. Like I think it's a cool card if it sees play in the format. Quantum Riddle is a great card. I think like Warp's one of the best mechanics they've made in recent years, and giving controlled players / blue mid range players the flexibility of, do I want to go 2 mana cantrip this, cast it later, or just draw it late game and here's my 5 mana draw 2. It's a powerful card. Don't get me wrong, but it's not the kind of card that will get pointed. And Wan Chitong is sees play in control decks most of the time, and I think that's where it belongs. and it's a card that is still vulnerable. So
Yeah.
I think both the cards are great includes and are fine at 0.
All right, curious farm animals are safe. Here's a critical comment. I will engage with the critical comments. I think it's important that these things are heard. About the comments about the initiative feeling disingenuous based on committee comments about hating the mechanic. Look, okay. So
Fair
just
enough.
be very clear. There are no quote unquote committee comments, right? Like if someone's posting something in public points discussion, committee members are also just individual people with their own opinions, and they do not speak for all of us. Like, trust me when I tell you, the committee is at loggerheads and disagreeing on things all of the time. Like, that is why there is a committee and not one person. You know what I mean? Like, there's always a clash of ideas, and it is the hope that in that clash of ideas comes a format which is good. And so far, I think we've been doing that. We've been doing that pretty well. Or like the comments, at least, which Raj and I have given about the initiative today are our own thoughts, but they are not dishonest, right? Like that, they are honestly what I believe, like, and so, well, at least,
Yeah, and just a caveat, when I did say initiative is a busted mechanic, I did say that is my personal opinion. I'm sorry if I breezed through that really quickly, but that is my personal opinion. It is. Yeah.
But anyway, like, but it is what it is. It's just all I'm saying is that, like, it's fine to disagree with the stance. You know what I mean? And I don't mind that. Like I expect people to disagree with me. Like at the end of the day, if I thought that I had all the answers for the format, I'd be advocating for a committee of one, which is just me. But like, I like, feedback is welcome. But like, please don't mistake me. Like if I say something, I do mean it. Like it's I'm not making things up. All right, what else have we got here?
Logic of tournament experience. How close are we to pointing Nadu? Gets discussed. We were afraid of Nadu leading into CanCon. Didn't perform as well as we expected, I don't think. What do you think about that, Ben?
Oh, about Nadu tournament experience. Oh, someone's corrected me that Grixis did top out CanCon. Okay, right. All the more reason. It's in a good place. Look, I just think you could argue that Nadu's second point is already a result of its tournament experience. Like the dedicated Nadu combo deck is good but not dominant. Like, and that's fine. That's where you want decks to be. It was probably too good in walks. That was like part of the reason. But the other part was the tournament experience. And I don't think look, I am also impartial. Like I've seen lots of players play Nadu very efficiently, and it's not a poor tournament experience. Like, but if you want to say that, like, look, some players play in a way which is not a good tournament experience. I mean, some people manage to play Oath of Druids in a way which is not a good tournament experience. You know what I mean? Like, just like there are lots of cards which people can play in a way which is a bad tournament experience. We just have to, as a community, just try and have a general ethic of, if you want to play, please, practice with your deck so that it's a good experience for you and your opponent. I don't, maybe you could say that Nadu is one of those cards which is slightly more vulnerable to, or slightly harder to learn how to do, but it's still eminently learnable. Like, at the end of the day, we're playing Magic the Gathering in an eternal format. We're smart people. We can figure out how to play this deck properly, and lots of people already do. So the bracket being played the price for Volcanic Island in days. That's not a terrible. It's not a terrible observation.
There's a long hit list of cards that have paid for Volcanic Island days or since.
Yeah,
it's almost as long as the vintage restricted list for Workshop.
Yeah, I mean, look, there are people who want days to one. I mean, we're not there, and I'm not there, but it's thoughts on Mental Misstep to one. How's that turned out? Absolutely brilliantly. It's gone from being an auto include in every deck to about present in 20 to 30% of decks. That's where you want a pointed card to be. Mox Pearl to 2. No, we're not doing Moxes to 2. Would Mox Ruby be anything for aggro? I mean, certainly putting Mox into 2 would be good for aggro. Like that's true. But it might also be good for lots of other things and might be more broken than we think.
It's just the splash effects of a card as powerful as a Mox. Like an off-color Mox at 2 points might be something that a lot of decks would be in for.
We'd like that triple Mox Jund. That will be the deck. Triple Mox Jund.
Oh,
I mean, look, the other thing as well is that just to remember that there was a Mox to 2 experiment that happened, and the outcome. And I know it was a while ago, but the outcome of that was that it wasn't a good idea, and the let's just say the insanity of cards which you can play on turn 1 or 2 now has gone up, not down. So I expect that the Mox to 2 experiment, if we did it again, would just produce the same results but worse. How do we attempt to improve aggro? Look, to some extent, you are a slave to what Wizards prints. But yeah, what else has we got? The Brainstorm to 1. No, thank you. I stand at the end of that. Like, I know the card's very good, but it is a cantrip. Like it's like the best cantrip, but it's a cantrip. Snapcaster to 0. No, it just becomes an auto include in all blue decks, and enough people find value out of playing it at 1. Minskambu -1. That card is also extremely good. And yeah, like the Minskambu is really good. I don't know if people remember, it was in a lot of decks as an auto include and won the game by itself when it was at 1. And it's still pretty good at 2.
I lost to Minsk and Blue last week.
Yeah, I don't know if people want to play like I don't know if people want to be playing in the world where like Walks can play, like there's a 4-color Walks no black which plays Minskambu. And just like with Minskambu Time Walk, you just lose the game to just Minskambu being on the field. That like there was a Jeskai Minskambu deck, yeah. Like Minskambu was a really, really crazy card. Look, you could say it's like a 1.5 point card, but we'd rather err on 2 for that one. Is Mana Drain too broken at 0? Look, Mana Drain is not too broken in like control decks at 0, but the problem was for Mana Drain at 0 is it just went into every combo deck as like, oh, I just interact and then I have 2 to 3 extra mana and I can do anything. So that was the result of the Mana Drain experiment. That just, yeah, combo decks played it for free. It was very easy to make even 1 mana feel like some sort of broken extra turn ending piece, so it's probably not going back to 0.
Yeah, Mana Drain was 0. It was quickly brought back to 1.
4 mana make them discard Hydro Blast. Hydro Blast.
2023 it was, yeah.
Yeah. All right, I think we have successfully answered all of the questions. But yeah, have we answered all the questions? I think so.
I think so.
But look, we appreciate all the questions in all degree of seriousness. Like it's been fun, and hopefully, I mean, look, of course as well, you know, feel free to catch up with Billinghurst and Vi and Pat. They'll probably have, you know, different and other nuanced opinions on these things. This is just obviously what Raj and I brought to you. Cracked 0, definitely not. How do you as committee members wean out the noise and bad faith of arguments with genuine discourse? Oh, I mean, that's easy. You just don't listen to it. Like, I don't know. Like yeah. I just read all the public points discussion, and it's not too hard to differentiate what the Rad Nauseum crew are like cronying on about in terms of just like, you know, memes and jokes from the serious commentary. You know, like I'm just kidding. Those guys are fun.
But as part of the committee, we will listen to all opinions.
Yeah, of course.
We will give people the benefit of the doubt. And like any sort of opinion, like if what we do is if someone personally gets given an opinion from a player, we will discuss it in a committee meeting. Like every player's feedback opinion is discussed.
I will say as well, I don't think I've ever had a single person approach me or send a one-on-one message and thought that was bad faith. Like every person who takes the time to talk to a committee member is acting in good faith, as far as I'm concerned. If we're talking about just random stuff which gets spewed into public points discussion, like, you know, public points discussion is an experience, and crucially, it's an opt-in experience only for those who want it. You know, like that. I don't pretend for a second like all discourse about points happens in public points discussion. Like it's a cool place. It's fun to be in there if you want to get in and have a bit of a brawl and a laugh. But yeah, like that, like, you know, we take it for what it is, and it's not that hard to sort the wheat from the chaff. Has the 7-point stats been useful at all? Not yet. This is Rolling Walnut himself is sending through the thing. I guess it's yet to be determined whether Rolling Walnut is actually just a deep fake AI put out by the Rad Nauseum crew. but so I'm assuming Walnut is a real person who is saying is a bot for the memes. Look, the problem with the 7-point stats website at the moment is that, at least personally, every time I start to look through the decks, I see categorization errors. And I know that, you know, you can have a few odd categorization errors that are not affecting the overall thing, but it's also, I guess, not helpful that it's not like a point in time measure, right? That it's like, you know, you've got data from as soon as the thing began, and like pointing changes happen since then. I personally prefer to just do the data analysis on like individual tournaments, because at least then I know that all of those decks were played at the same time in the same field, right? As in they're all there at the same tournament. And I find that more helpful personally, like as opposed to the broad sweeping ones. And the other problem is with the website, as far as like me trying to interpret it, is that I have no good gauge about what the points difference. So what the, like, for example, if a card is like a 0.567 as opposed to a 0.667, not youth memes entirely by accident. Excellent there. I don't know what that 0.01 means. I have no idea what that measure means. I don't have a like, I understand how it's calculated from a Bayesian averages thing, but it's not like a null hypothesis I can throw through and get like a significance or not significant thing. So I don't. It's like, you know, if I wanted to like rank order the cards, yeah, maybe sure it gives me a good rank ordering, but it doesn't tell me. Yes, it doesn't tell me about that card. Yeah, yeah. I just don't know what the gaps between the cards mean, for example. So that's probably the
Yeah. Also, like archetype clubbing is just so hard to do in this day and age. Like
yeah.
the card design has got to a point where what's like, how do you differentiate between mid range control and aggro? So it's hard to do sometimes, and to do it in a format as wide as this, it's like the fact that the tool even exists is fucking amazing.
Yeah. It is definitely a promising start to what could be really cool.
Yep.
Quick question to Harry Hazes. Could Gamble's Point be moved on to Breach? Breach to 4, Gamble to 0. Yes, it could be, but then Lurrus Breach wouldn't be a deck, and then I guess you just have to argue. Well, yes, have to think to yourself, is it making the format richer to have Lurrus Breach as an option for Breach piles, as opposed to homogenizing them all towards, I guess, either Breach, Bond, or Control, versus having Gamble in a few decks? When Gamble, again, it's a tutor. The general thesis on pointings is that we are against tutors. And Gamble, I know, has a discard thing, but it is one of the only unconditional ones. You know, so yeah, it's a possible and totally plausible and totally justifiable point swap. It achieves something different to the pointings we've got right now, and at the moment our preference is to stick with the one we've got. We think it achieves that end. All right. I did not say pillar. Oh my goodness, Liam is getting unbelievably triggered. He's shadowboxing with people he's not saying. Pillar of the format is living within Liam's head. You've heard it here right now. I'm allowed to call out Liam. He's my podcast host. You thought the Israel lobby was bad. This is not the right time to get political. Okay. Okay. All right. Well, that's it. It's nearly an hour. Yeah. We're keeping this to be less than an hour. We've answered the questions, I think. But yeah. Thanks for joining us, Raj. Thanks for being with me.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks for hosting, and thanks everyone for joining in. See you all at the next one.
All right. See you guys.